Okay, so this video is going to demonstrate some of the features of my classroom. Now, this is running on my local testing server. There is a live version available. If you're interested in it, please send me a message and I can give you login details, but I don't want to make it publicly available to everybody just yet because it's still in sort of beta, and there are a few things which aren't working quite perfectly. However, most things are working, which is what you'll be able to see, or nearly everything is working, which is what you'll be able to see. So first thing to show is that the width of the page here is fixed for everybody. So, and then individual users will be able to scroll up and down here as they see fit. If you don't like the way the page is displayed, the best thing to do is just to zoom the browser. You can either zoom it bigger, like that, so it takes up pretty much the whole width of your screen, or you can zoom it a bit smaller if you want. If I zoom it too big, then it will say that that's not acceptable and you need to make it a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to keep it on sort of 110, but there is some white space over here. Maybe I will use that for putting Skype when I'm talking to my students. I actually see their picture and it's not overlaying the top of the thing. But you can stretch it or shrink it as you see fit to fit your screen as best you wish. Okay. Next thing then, we've got basic tools up here. So this is a select tool, line tool, pencil tool. Each time it will show you exactly what the tool is, and some of the tools will give you different options here. So select tool here will give you select things, cut, copy, paste, delete, group, ungroup, and then the pencil here will give you different color options. All of the different tools. Some of the tools will give you options for width or for size. Okay, so I can write something on here. So say I'm going to do a question which is about algebra. So I'm going to write solve, and then x squared minus x minus 6 is equal to 0. Now that's a fairly standard thing. If I want to, I can select my text. So I can select my text like that. If I want, I can group it together like so. Once everything is one single object, I'll then get these additional tools which I can use to resize it. If I'm not happy with how it is, I can pick it up and I can drag it about. I can also rotate it. More about that later. Okay, like so. Now I've got other tools in here. So there's image tools here. I can upload files, upload image files and PDFs there, which I'll demonstrate later on as well. I can also select images. There aren't any images at the moment, but later on. Here I've got a list of users. So at the moment, that's me logged in. There's 2 other users logged in, which I'll also talk about in a minute. Now here, I've got saved items. So anything which I created, which I think I'm particularly proud of. So imagine this equation here is fantastic. And I've written it out and I really want to keep it. I can just drag it here on top of the saved items. See the saved item box goes green. Let go. And then it will appear in the saved item list. I can change that there and change that name. And I can call that my equation or whatever I want to do. And that's the name there. Now, if I, on reflection, decide that actually that's not all that great, I can delete that, and then that will disappear from my saved items. There's also images here where I can keep images which I may have uploaded previously, but which I might want to use. So I can just get an image here. So let's say I want that human eye image. We go on a different page, actually. And actually, let's do something more mathematical. Let me get my cosine graph. I can drop that on there, and then that will appear on my page. So those are saved items. Once you've saved something there, it will stay there for a long time. Now, I can go back to my image controls. I can click on my select for images, and then I will select the image, and I can then move it around. I can also resize it if I want. I can also rotate it if I want. And specifically with the images, because this screen is designed to be black and this image is white, if I wish, I can invert the colors like that, so then it looks a bit better on my screen. So that is images there. You can also upload PDFs, which I'll demonstrate a little bit later on. Now down here, I've got a presentation browser. So the system is designed, instead of having specific links for specific rooms and then everybody joins the same room, when everybody logs in, they see the same thing, and then they would be able to choose which presentation they want. So this presentation here, it was created on the 29th of March. It's got 3 pages at the moment, which is why it's saying 2 of 3 up here. It's owned by Tutor 1, which is me. And there's some other presentations which I've attended, one created by Tutor 2, one created by Tutor 3. And then I've got another presentation down here, which I'm going to come and look at or use a bit later on. So that one is separate. That's only got 1 page in it, and it's currently blank. If I go back to my page demonstration here, then this one is demo 1, and I can change my pages again as I was. Now, I'll close that. Slide browser I'll come to in a moment. If I go back to my user list, I can see I've got 2 other online users. So what I've done is I've loaded those up in the same browser. And then if I click here, I can see now I'm student 1. Student 1 is looking at the same presentation. So if I open the presentation browser, they're also looking at this demonstration for tutor 1, but they could go to another lesson that they had with tutor 2, and they could look at that, and they can see whatever they were doing there. I can go back to my one with tutor 1. Okay, now, if as the student, I wish to write something, I can write it on here. So say I'm going to try and solve this equation. So maybe I'm quite good at this, and I know that it's x minus 3 and x plus 2 is equal to 0. That's fantastic. Now, in the same way, I've got student 2 here. Now, when student 2 looks, they will see what the tutor has written, but they will not see what student 1 has written. Student 1 has written their solution here, but student 2 does not see that. So each student and the tutor have a separate layer. So the tutor has a layer which is in the background, which everybody can see, and then each student has their own layer which sits on top of that, which they can write on. So if I go back to student 1 here and I do the select tool, I can select the writing which I've written as student 1. So I can select what I've written, but I cannot select what the tutor has written. So that is fixed in the background. So the tutor can write whatever they want, and that will stay there. They can also use that presentation again for other students, load other students in. Students will see that, but they cannot edit that. So when the student writes, they will get their own layer, they write their own solution. If I have another student here, and then they want to try to write their solution, then that will appear separately. So say this student isn't quite so clued up, and they write that. Now, if I go back as my tutor, I'm here. I can see this, but I cannot see what students 1 and student 2 have written. So in order to see that, what I need to do is go to the presentation browser, and then I can see the members here. So I can see that tutor 1 is here, and I can see that student 1 and student 2 attended. If I click on student 1, then what student 1 has written will appear. And if I click on student 2, I can see what student 2 has written. So I can use this. I could set homework, for example, and then I could have the students try it, and then I could come back and look at it and see what the students have written. All right. I can also write on the students layer. So if I write here with this selected and I write here, I can write that's wrong. No, that's not wrong. That's right. I can write that's correct. Well done. And then I can look at student 2 and I can say, yes, that's correct, but it's not really very helpful. So I can put a question mark or something there. Again, if I go to the students, the student will only see what I've written because I've written on their layer. Then each individual student will only see that. Okay, if I wanted to write back on my own layer, I would have to select this again, and then I could write here, and then I could write next question, or I could go even to page 2 or page 3, and then I could write something else here. So I could write question 3, for example. Okay, now at the moment, individual students can navigate themselves. So the student can choose what they want to look at. Okay, here the student is looking at this. The tutor is looking at that, the student is looking at something different. If I want everything to be the same, what I need to do is create a live session. So as a student or as a tutor, I can invite my student by clicking on them, or the student can request to join by clicking on the tutor. So if I do that, click on tutor 1 here, this will pop up. It says student 1 has accepted the I was requested to join the session, except I say yes. So now I get a user list. It says attendees, and now tutor 1 and student 1 are in there together. It says student 1 has joined the session. Okay, for student 2, now from the list, tutor 1 has disappeared and student 1 has also disappeared, because if you don't want the student to interrupt you, then they can't actually see that you're there. However, if I would like them to join, then I can click invite, and then I can invite student 2 as well. They will then get a pop-up saying that they want to join. Now, as the tutor, if I change the page, then the page will change for everybody. Okay, I can also, once we're in the session, I can also use the pointer. So this tool here, and I can point at something, and then the students will see the pointer. Okay, so here I just want to demonstrate the upload tools. So if I open image here, and I can browse and upload an image. If I just choose an image, this is just literally to run, it will just boom and appear directly straight on there. However, if I choose a PDF, then what will happen is it will upload the PDF to the server first of all. Just wait a moment while that happens. Okay, and then once that happened is you will get thumbnails of the PDF, which you can scroll up and down and have a look at. Now, I don't want that title page because that doesn't really help me at all, so I will uncheck include on that one. This one here, now around it, it will crop off a little bit of the page by default, so what you need to do is just check that the crop is in the right place. So I'm just going to move those. I don't really want that title there, that seems fine. Bottom is okay. And then I don't really want that extra stuff on the right there, so we'll just move that in a little bit. Okay, now most of the pages are going to be the same, so I can just click here, apply to all, and then that will apply the same crop positions to all the pages. Now I just need to check here. I haven't cropped anything off the top, so that one needs to go up a little bit. That's fine, that one needs to go up a little bit as well. Like so, and then that last page there, there's some too much stuff on the bottom, so let me move that up. And this page here, that's the answers, so I don't want that either. Okay, now by default it will invert the image so that it's black with white, so it will look nicer on the black page on the background. If I don't like that, I can click the invert to choose to have it in white. However, I'm going to leave it in black, and then what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to click one of these three options here. Upload only will send it just to the saved items, which I showed you previously. I could add to this page, it will add them all to the same page, and this one will do one image per page. However, what I'm going to do is click add to this page, and then all the images will appear on this page here. So now my students would be able to scroll up and down the page independently. Even if they're in a session, they'd all see the same page, but they can work up and down on that page. They can all write on their own layer, and they can all write their own answers, and then I can come back later and I can look through them and see what there is without anybody needing to send their homework in or scan it or anything like that. It would all be available directly in the classroom with all the solutions in it. That first image, I don't really want that there, so I'm just going to select that and delete it. Okay, and then that's all good. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is show a few of the other features. So in my slide browser here, basically what I've got is a bunch of questions which I can choose to look at. So I can select my subject here, there's mathematics or there's physics. I can select exam board if I wish. I can select my topic. So I've got algebra here, and I'm going to look at quadratic equations since that's what I was looking at earlier. And then I've got a selection of questions here. So I can move up and down here, look at the questions which I want. So say, actually, I think that this question here, factorize 9m squared minus k squared, looks nice. So I can just drag that, drop it onto the board there. Now I've got another student with me, so we're in a session with student 1. Student 1 will also be able to see that question there. Now I can then get the question here. I can write it on my layer as I was doing previously, and I can write things on here. I can click on student 1 layer and get them to write it, or they can write here on their layer so they can have a go at it. Now, when I've done that, because I've added a question from the slide browser, this icon here will light up, which wasn't previously lit up, and this one here will also show up, which wasn't. Now, this one here is the mark scheme. Now, if I drag this top window down a little bit, and then I click on the mark scheme, I will see the mark scheme for the question, which will help me out from having a bad day and not quite sure what the answer is. Now, by default, the student won't be able to see that mark scheme. That option is not available. However, if I want to, I can click on the mark scheme here for the student, and that will then enable the student to be able to see the mark scheme as well. All right, so mark scheme is there, and they can then look at that. Now, if I go to another question here, so I've got here a question which is notoriously difficult to teach. So it says here, reflect the shape P in the line x equals 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of my other tools. So this tool here is my polygon tool. Width is 2, size is 3. I'm just going to make the width a little bit bigger just to make it easier. Size is 3 is fine. We're talking about a triangle. I'm going to make it blue. Now I'm going to drag a triangle on, like so. I'm then going to click the select tool. And when I highlight the triangle, I can edit the points. So I can take this point and move it. I can take this point and move it. And this point here and move it. So it's directly over the top of P. It's not quite right. Let's see if I can get that a bit better. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, so now with that shape I've got, I can hide it again, and I've got these 3 tools here. So this one is the rotate tool, this one is the resize tool, and this one is the reflect tool. Since we're doing a reflection, I'm interested in this one. If I click that, it will then give me a line here, which is going to be the line of reflection. Now, by default, it starts off on the left-hand side, but what I want to do is reflect in the line x equals 3. So I can pick up the points of this line, and I can move them down here, and draw this line where x is equal to 3. Like that. It will also tell me the line angle is 0, so I can make sure I've got my line nice and straight. Like that. Once I've got my line in the right place, I can then click to this icon again, and the shape will reflect back and forth like that to show what is going on. Now this question asks for the line x equals 3, but if it had asked for, say, the line y equals x, I'd be able to move this tool for the line y is equal to x, which should be like that. Again, I can check my line angle to make sure it's 45 degrees, like that, make sure everything is fine, and then I'd be able to reflect it in that line there. It's a very useful tool for teaching students about reflection because they have a lot of trouble with that kind of thing. Now, I can also do, similarly for here, this one says describe fully the single transformation that maps shape A onto shape B. So again, if I choose my polygon tool, this time I need 4 sides, make it a different color, and then I can draw a 4-sided shape. And again, I can edit my points so they're over the top. Like that. Like that. Okay, so I've got my tool here. I can say, okay, I think that looks like a rotation. So I can try to rotate it. And I can see, yeah, that's in the same shape now. It's in the same orientation, but the rotation isn't quite right. So what I can do is I can move this target here. Let me just move that so it's back to 0. This target here, which is the center of rotation. I can move that where I would like the center of rotation for my shape to be. So I can say, okay, it needs to be somewhere over here. So let's try that. So I can try that and rotate that. And you can see, okay, that's sort of the right idea, but it's not quite in the right place. Let me just put that back where it should be. And the center of rotation maybe needs to be a bit more down here. So I can try that and see what happened now. That's like, okay, that's maybe better, maybe a bit worse, not really sure. And I can just experiment with the center of rotation until such time as I get it in the right place. And then I can see, okay, that's perfect. So I can also see how much I've rotated. So this will be an angle clockwise around. So that's 270 degrees. The student should also be able to understand that that would be the same as doing 90 in the negative direction. Okay, now it would also be possible to do enlargements. So if I did the same idea here, I can do, again, a 4-sided shape. And then we should also be able to do enlargements. So if I move that there, up there, actually I need it for P, don't I? So let me move it down to here on P. Like that. So while I'm here, let me just show you some of the other tools. So here I've got the select tool. If I click it again, it will change green and I'll get multi-select, which means I can select more than one item. And if I click it again, it will let me to edit. So now because I've got the item selected, I can change the color of it. I can change it to be green. I can make it filled in if I want. I can edit the shape. So I've got my shape here. Now what I want to do is to enlarge it. So I use this tool. So I can see that yes, I can make it bigger and the same shape, but that's not quite what I want. Again, the box will show me the scale factor. So let me put that back to 1. Like that, and I need to move my center of enlargement. So it needs to be sort of down here somewhere. So let me try that and see what happens. Okay, and I can see that that's working just fine. So the enlarge tool will work on the distance it is from the center of rotation. So center of enlargement, center of rotation. So the closer it is, the smaller shape will be. The further away I'll do it, the bigger it will be. It won't matter on what angle I put it over here. It's just the distance away. Also, I can do negative enlargement by flipping it onto the other side, and with my scale factor of negative. So depending on what I want to do, I can show different enlargements like that. So again, this is a question which is quite hard to teach traditionally. So it says, show the locus of the points which are equidistant for the lines AB and AC. So what I'm going to need to do here is use my circle tool. So I'm just going to draw a circle like so. And then when I select my circle, it will show me where the center of the circle is. So what I'm going to do is, and I also get these two control points here, which I can use to make an arc. So I can move those around there, make an arc like that. Actually, I want it to be a little bit bigger, so I can just scale it like that. Move it in a little bit. Okay, and then I want to move that so the center is on A. So it's like I took my compass and then drew an arc on the line AB. Now, what I would need to do then is use my compass the same setting and draw an arc on AC. So what I can do is copy that, paste it, drag it, move it so my arc is around here, like that, and then move it back. So the center is also on A. Oops, that's not quite right. Do that again. There, like that. So I've got my two construction lines there. Then what I need to do is put my compass point at this position and draw another arc. So if I just paste again, so my compass point will be there, and I can just rotate the whole thing round over there somewhere. Actually, I'm going to make that a bit bigger, like that. Now, because I've made it bigger, I will need to copy it again and then paste another one. So that's going to be the same. Move that so it is on top there, and then rotate it round till the two cross. Just move that one, make it a little bit longer, like that. So then I've got my intersection point here where the two cross. I can then take my straight line tool and I can draw a straight line from A through to C, like that. And there I have my beautifully constructed locus of all points equidistant from lines A to C. So while I'm showing you things, let me also show you I can add a new page here, like that. Then what I can do is I can go to my saved items here. Saved items, I drew this nice runway which I've created here, so I'm just going to drag that on. So if I spend a bit of time drawing a very nice item, I can sit here and I can drag it on, and then I would be able to label additional things. So I'd be able to say that this has got a mass of 6 kilograms, for example, and then this has got a mass of 2 kilograms, something like that, and I'd be able to add forces on whatever I needed to do. If I didn't like what I'd done, I can use my undo tool here, which will undo, and I can redo exactly like that. And the steps, it will show me how many steps I can undo and how many steps I can redo. That's all fantastic. What else have I not shown you yet? Oh, I didn't show you the straight line tool, which is not a straight line tool. So if I draw some straight lines like this and like this, I can select those and I'll get this mid control point here, and I can take that, if I move that out of the way, I can take this middle control point here and I can bend it and I will get a quadratic curve. So that's quite useful for actually drawing quadratics on a graph paper. That's quite nice. I can also make interesting shapes with that. I can re-edit this point here. Also, I can say if I have some other shapes I've drawn on here, like this, like that. Now, ordinarily, it would be quite difficult to select individual ones if I wanted to delete some of them or if I wanted to do something with them. But with this, I can get a pixel level select. So as I draw my box here, it will highlight things as the box pretty much touches the item, and they will highlight. Okay. So I can select things like that. If I want to select more, I can click the select button again. I get multi-select, and then those will stay highlighted, and I can select other things as well. If I want, I can group those together. When I group, things will turn green to distinguish them from being orange for the non-highlighted ones. Like that. And then I can unselect them. So those are now a group. Once they're a group, I can then treat them as one single thing. So I can resize them all together. I can rotate them all together. I can even reflect them if I wanted to all together, like that, and then bring them back over here. So depending on what I want to do, I can use all of my tools, and then I can select things very carefully. All right, I think that's most of the things there. There's a rectangle tool that's kind of straightforward. It just draws rectangles, and there's an ellipse tool which just draws ellipses, but that's nothing too exciting. All right, I think I have finished explaining that. So if you're interested, then please drop me a line, and I can create it for you. Just the one caveat is it is still under development. Most things are working quite well, but there are the odd bug here and there. Any bugs which you can report to me will help me to improve it and will help everybody. So thank you very much for watching.